There is a door beneath Rome no one is allowed to open. Not journalists, not scholars, not even most clergy. Behind it lie shelves that stretch for miles, stacked with documents written in the hand of emperors, heretics, and popes who lived centuries apart. And yet, their secrets sit side by side. The Vatican calls it an archive, but the world knows it by a different name: the Secret Archives. Some say they protect truth, others say they hide it. So ask yourself, if there's nothing to fear in the light, why bury so much in the dark? Now let the urgency slow. Imagine the echo of footsteps on polished marble, a shaft of golden light cutting across a cold floor. Candles flicker against stone, and just ahead, the hush of something vast and ancient held shut by silence. You're no longer watching the mystery. You've stepped inside it. For over 4 centuries, the Vatican Secret Archives have remained one of the most heavily guarded collections on Earth. Nestled beneath the Apostolic Palace, their passages run deeper than most cathedrals rise. Over 35,000 volumes, 53 miles of shelving. And yet only a tiny fraction has ever seen daylight. Inside are whispers of suppressed gospels, forbidden rituals, coded correspondences, and entire bloodlines that the Church may have wished the world would forget. And the few who have glimpsed its contents, they speak in half-truths and warnings, like those who've looked too long at something meant to stay hidden. You're about to follow their footsteps, slowly, quietly, one vault at a time. Before we venture further into the shadows, take a moment to subscribe, so you never miss a secret that history has tried to forget. You stand at the edge of the 17th century, in a time when the Renaissance had already painted its masterpieces, and the Enlightenment was beginning to knock faintly at the door. It is the year 1612. Rome is bustling with artists, astronomers, merchants, and men of God, each competing for a place in a world that is shifting under their feet. But behind the walls of the Vatican, something far quieter is unfolding. A decree, a signature, a door quietly sealed, and with it, the most powerful religious institution on earth shuts its history away from the very flock it claims to shepherd. Pope Paul V was not known for subtlety. He expanded the Basilica of St. Peter. He commissioned fountains, monuments, and royal chapels. Yet curiously, the most enduring legacy of his papacy was not something he built for all to see, but something he locked away. By his order, the Archivum Secretum Vaticanum, the Vatican's secret archive, was formally closed to outsiders. What had once been available, at least in part, to select theologians or trusted advisors, was now fully sequestered. No scholar, no king, no curious priest would enter unless the Church allowed it, which, as it turned out, they almost never did. This wasn't a random act of administrative housekeeping. The Church had always kept records, from early martyrdoms to inquisitions, from imperial letters to inventories of relics. But what Paul V enacted was a deliberate change of access. In an era when printing presses were churning out new ideas like wildfire, when Galileo's telescope was revealing things that didn't match Genesis, and when Protestant reformers were challenging Rome's every word, the Church responded not with open dialogue, but with silence. It built walls of parchment and protocols. And no, the irony is not lost, that the word secretum in Latin doesn't mean secret in the modern sense, but rather private. A technicality, sure, but a useful one. After all, secrecy cloaked in bureaucracy is still secrecy. Historians often debate whether Paul's decision was driven by fear or foresight. On the one hand, he may have believed that consolidating church records would prevent their misuse by enemies theological or political. On the other hand, perhaps he knew too well the kind of truths those shelves contained. Uncomfortable truths. documents from popes who contradicted one another, letters from kings that revealed backroom deals, early Christian writings that did not align with later dogma, and maybe texts that spoke of visions, miracles, and bloodlines that had been scrubbed from official canon. One letter written during Paul's time hints at internal panic. A cardinal refers obliquely to documents of such nature that their misreading could fracture faith. Not destroy the church, but fracture faith. That word choice is telling. It suggests that what lies within the archive is not necessarily false, but simply destabilizing. Like a mirror held too close, or a family diary that reveals you're not the first to stumble. Of course, some see Paul's actions as perfectly reasonable. Every state has its classified files. Why not the Vatican? After all, it functions as both church and sovereign micronation. And yet what makes the secret archive different is its span. Its contents are not just national secrets. They are theological time bombs wrapped in Latin ink. Because when your claim is to divine authority, when you trace your power to apostolic succession and unbroken tradition, then the past isn't just a reference. It's the foundation. And any crack in it could bring the entire edifice into question. For the next 250 years, the archive remained almost entirely shut. Not even the most eminent historians could gain access. Rumors began to grow in the silence. Some claimed it contained lost books of the Bible. Others whispered of Templar confessions, ancient maps, or heretical doctrines signed by saints. By the 19th century, poets and skeptics alike were painting the Vatican as the ultimate hoarder of truth, not just a guardian of Scripture, but a gatekeeper of history itself. It wasn't until 1881 that limited access was finally granted by Pope Leo III, and even then only to carefully selected scholars under tight restrictions. Visitors were and still are monitored. Documents must be requested with precise information, no wandering among shelves, no idle curiosity. It's like asking someone to find a grain of salt in a sealed cathedral, but only if you can already describe that grain's exact shape, color, and shelf number. You might wonder if the archive is so heavily restricted, how we even know what's in it. That's the strange part. We don't, not entirely. What has been cataloged represents a fraction